already know that doctors, nurses, and staff are basically superheroes, but sometimes, particularly on our healthcare-centered community, it feels like the employees in our healthcare practices and hospitals are practically celebrities too. Maybe especially because our next guest, Dr. Albert Hagy Jr., is featured on our July-August Top Docs magazine cover. You can read my feature on Dr. Hagy and his win in our latest issue on newsstands now, and you can always see more at theroanoker.com. Hi, Dr. Hagy. Thanks so much for coming on our show today.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We so appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule of literally saving lives to be here today with us. We'll talk about your Top Docs Award win here in a moment, but first I really want to learn more about your role in our community. So you've been practicing for over 20 years and have consistently placed in our Top Docs categories for general surgery since 2005. I was curious if you could share a little bit about your background as to what brought you here today.
I think primarily it's age. So it's an honor to be recognized. I've been in practice for 32 years in Roanoke. I've had the privilege of working with such great nurses and anesthesiologists and other physicians. That's what props you through all of this. And all of the recognition really is unwarranted for a single person. It's really the team.
I think that's fabulous. I love that all the doctors that we end up speaking with are always so complimentary of the people that they work with. So really indicative of our community as a whole, too, I think.
I think that's right. And the people and the patients and kind of the shared goal of trying to help people get through a tough time.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about where you went to school. And, I mean, are you from Roanoke?
From Franklin County.
Okay.
Graduate of Franklin County High School. Go Eagles. Graduated, went to the University of Richmond to undergrad, then UVA to med school. Went to Medical Center of Delaware, which is now Christiana Care in Delaware, to do surgical training. And then here to Roanoke.
Great. And you've been with Carilion for quite some time.
So Carilion in 2002, I think, was the
Fantastic.
starting date. I came to town to join one of my father's good med school friends named Ed Williams. He and his partner Sam Williams were part of Blue Ridge Mountain Surgeons. So I joined them and practiced for 10 years, actually at Lewis Gale and at Roanoke Memorial. And then when the Carilion Clinic was founded and begun, joined that organization and have been with them since.
With such a wonderful history, it's no wonder you're a multiple award winner for our Top Docs biennial poll. And I was curious, we talked a little bit about this in print, but what does it mean for you to be recognized by healthcare professionals? Because these are nurses and people who you work with closely, and they're recognizing you.
Again, I'll fall back on my original answer. It's age, name recognition. And I honestly enjoy the people that I work with, the patients, and when you're enjoying what you do and with whom you're doing it, it makes the experience better. And I think that's what we all respond to. It makes uncomfortable situations a bit more comfortable. We get to know each other. Both staff and patients enjoy a good laugh or a teasing and things that help lighten the mood a bit. And you gain some trust. And I think that if I have some ability, it is in extracting some trust from my patients. Because, in earnest, I want to do the best I can do for them, and I need to have the team that can assist with that same.
It seems like you have a pretty good bedside manner, I think.
As I told you before the interview, I'm a great heckler. I'm a little bit of an instigator.
That's all right. Sometimes we need that.
And so it certainly helped. It definitely helps me. The other thing that helps is my enjoyment for teaching in the surgical residency program and in the med school. We've had students from UVA at the very beginning of my career, and now for VTC, School of Medicine, and VCOM students. The PA program sends students. And Dr. Keeley, one of the fathers of Roanoke surgery in my time, said, who do you think gets a better operation and a better discussion? You when you're by yourself, or you when you're teaching someone else how to do things? And so, boy, that's couldn't be more true, and particularly the older you get, taking students through and residents through how to deal with people, how to help diagnose, and probably more importantly, how to communicate with the patients and their families what's about to happen and what needs to happen and why it needs to happen. And that is, that's the blessing of the job, right? That's the joy of a teacher. And so I have that in combination with more recognition than I'm due for being a physician, but a lot of rewards in the job for sure.
And I'm guessing you've touched hundreds of lives that way, and being able to share your knowledge and wisdom with others who then go on to share it with others themselves.
It sure is fun to watch.
Yeah. We
just had our graduation for the surgical residents this weekend, and I embarrassed them and myself in the format of the roast that we have. But you see former residents come back and they'll communicate, and probably every week I hear from someone, whether it's a patient or former resident or student.
That's fantastic.
It is
the
great.
Long-standing legacy, which actually you inherited from your father. You touched on that very briefly. Your father is also an award-winning top doc. I had to go back through the archives for some research because we've been doing this for so long, and I saw his name came up more than a few times in the late 90s and early 2000s under the geriatrics category. I love that you're continuing this family legacy.
Yeah, I was blessed with being born into a ridiculously fun family. My father is a family physician, lives in Franklin County, still with my mom on the farm where we were raised. He was a private practitioner for more than 10 years and then became an educator with the family medicine residency program at Carilion. And so I watched him enjoy teaching, enjoy program development, and then was always an excellent physician. Walked through Rocky Mount and, hey, your daddy borned me. You know, we had a lot of family friends and acquaintances, and no one's a stranger really in Rocky Mount anyway. But that extended into Roanoke. My mother is she is the reminder that you are human and you are to take excellent care of humans. As she would say, she's the preacher's daughter. And so I had great influence from both of my parents. My brother's an orthopedic surgeon. My older sister is a writer, faculty member at the University of Wyoming. So
pretty talented family then.
No, we love stories and we love tales. And my younger sister's a physical therapist, and so she's the jokester in the crowd. So we have a lot of health care in the family, and I think that's a testament to my father and the respect that he gained with my mother's complete support. So I was spoiled as a kid, I think.
Well, we'll touch on the storytelling here in just a minute, but we're talking about, you touched on, the aspects of helping and mentor young doctors and physicians. What kind of advice are you giving them in addition to, how to be great bedside manner?
Well, I think what I was told is listen to your patients, do your best for your patients, and be completely honest with your patients. And I think that sounds easy, and it can be difficult. And I think today, even more so with electronic visits and email and televisits, some of the humanity from those visits disappears a little bit. I think you lose something in that. And I tell my residents, see your patients in follow-up, even if the procedure went great and it's a routine follow-up and there's nothing that you think you're going to gain from this. Have them come back and see you, because you need to see the finish, and you need to hear from them that the procedure went as you described it, and if it didn't, you need to know that, and you need to know why. And I think that helps the system more than anything, the continuity. Now, I also am very fortunate to have a nurse practitioner and physician assistant, Gail Arrington, nurse practitioner, and Rachel Rich, physician assistant, that do some of the follow-up and some of the evaluation. But man, we tag team patients. We see them together often, and it's that continuity and building that continuity and continuing that trust is huge. And I think that's where you get refueled. I
was about to say, your patients, some of them anyway, might be surprised that you do such a follow-up call.
Well, and so we try to do it, used to, of course, be what you'd expect. Mm-hmm. And it's become less less important to some portions of medicine. But if you're asking what I tell my residents and students is, take that visit. It is invaluable. And the other person I can't forget is Linda Light. She's been my nurse office nurse for 32 years. I stole her from Dr. Williams when he retired, and she is that other force of continuity. I mean, through my career, my family, and so I think that's very important to me, and I'm becoming more aware of how important it is to patients and staff. Staff like to hear the follow-up too.
Absolutely, because they really get to know the patients,
yes.
like on a personal level to some degree too. They become friends with them, or family members or whatever.
Yes. In fact, yes.
Well, that's fantastic. So in our episode's first segment, Dr. Arthur and I chatted a little bit about the wave of technology and improvements that you've seen over recent years, such as telemedicine, which you sort of touched on. I was curious, and the interesting bits that you really love or that you're really impressed by or even looking forward to, if there is anything that fits the bill there in terms of technology advancements.
Well, for surgeons, the sexy fun is the robotic platform. It can make some more difficult operations more fun. It's the video game creep, right?
It was called Operation back in the 90s when we were playing it in a little board game.
Exactly. Yeah, and I was terrible at that.
With the guy's eyes wide open while you're operating on him? Oh my gosh.
Right. So the robotic platform it takes the tremor out of your hand. It gives you beautiful visualization, and so it is fun. And I credit our intuitive rep Laura Butler with encouraging me, even though I was kind of old to start. She said,
"You're never too old to learn."
Yeah, and to apply it, and it certainly energized me. And through COVID, when we weren't doing much operating, it was the ideal time to train on the simulators and things. And so I'm happy I did that, and I've really enjoyed it. The electronic medical record is the powerful tool, and it's certainly a big double-edged sword. There's so much information, you just about drown, and how to corral it all and to mold it into what you need, and then to try to satisfy every other agency's coding input that you need. That's the burden, and I think that's the difficult part of medicine, is how part of it's the information age, but all the people that are competing for the information that you have for billing, risk stratification, and these various things. That's certainly challenging, but the electronic medical record is that's the gorilla in our room when we're with patients.
Probably all beats it with pen and paper these days, right?
I'll say the final product, yes. I worry two things. One is that we face the keyboard instead of the patient, and that's I've been in a couple of those appointments, and they're not the same as when you put your phone down and put your pen down and just have a few minutes of talk. So to my young colleagues, I'll say, hey, eye to eye and face to face, not typing away. But those people are very efficient, the ones that type while they go, but sure. I can't do both.
Great advice, though. Still, sort of like, you can't drive and text at the same time. It's sort of the same deal. You should focus on the patient, right?
I know I can't.
So actually, it kind of leads me to wondering if any of the people that you've kind of helped mentor, have they taught you anything significant over recent years? And, I don't know if one incident, jumps out at you in particular, but.
I learn and am influenced on a weekly basis by students' questions, students or residents' observations, and critical observations. People worry as we approach July 1st when the new resident crew comes out. Oh, don't go to the hospital, they're a new resident crew. I argue that may be the best time to come, because there are so many eyes on you, and you're going to be you may be intruded upon a little bit more, but you'll have curious people who mean well and are learning how to do things. And I will have a treatment plan adjusted by a surgical resident every week for the better of the patient. an observation that was made, a medication that was changed. And so it's, as long as they confuse my yammering on and my stories with education, I think they may think I'm valuable, but I don't mistake where a lot of my education comes from: new products, new techniques, because they're learning these things on the fly.
I love that. There's no ego on you.
No, Lord. No room for that in healthcare. It's
not like the TV shows and stuff. I think there's a lot of misconception there in terms of, doctors are ego. No, I have yet to meet a doctor who doesn't want to hear about how I'm feeling, right, and focus on my health. And I was going to say, so a couple of years ago, I ended up getting shingles on my face over the left side of my eye, and I was at the ER at Carilion, and a resident ended up helping me with all the looking at my eye and making sure things were okay. And he was so young and helpful, enthusiastic, and I was totally embarrassed, right? I felt like Frankenstein's monster at the time, but he was so caring and so eager, and the entire team was so helpful that it was really, I never felt, oh my God, who's this kid helping me?
Yeah.
It was really a necessary presence in a very stressful time. So I appreciate everything that you're doing to help young doctors as well.
Well, as we say, they'll be working on us soon enough if they're not already. So
Good point. So we were talking about your favorite part of the job, and you've really focused on the people and the teams that you're working with. Are there other factors of your job that you love, maybe even specifically with surgery?
Well, I think what attracted me to surgery was, if you have any form of attention deficit, and I'm not saying I do, but you're put in a room with people that focus on what you're focusing on, and you get to develop a plan and execute a project and have it and hope it works. And and they're these are gratifying. It satisfies the intellectual curiosity piece, and it satisfies the tinkerer in us, right? You have a little project, you go fix your little project, and it goes well. And so, from a mechanical standpoint, I like that. From the patient relationship standpoint, I like when patients come in and say it wasn't as bad as they thought it was going to be, or it went exactly as we said it was going to go, and those are gratifying. But what tests your mettle, I think, is when things don't go well.
Yeah, not every day is going to be a good day in your instance.
And that's when you find out who's a good physician and who's not. And that's too strong a term, but when things don't go well, you and your patient are going to go through a tough road, and you have to offer a lot of reassurance. And boy, if you don't know where the word patient came from, that is assigned to the people whom we care for, boy, that's it. They have to be patient, and you wait for nature to correct whatever has gone wrong or whatever mistakes that you're hoping resolve themselves, and often they do. But boy, it's a tough coach sometimes.
Sure, absolutely. Heck of a learning experience in any case, really.
That's right.
Gosh. So you had talked about in our print interview that you actually love to, you're talking about heckling, and you mentioned that you love to heckle your children, who are actually not children. The way you had talked, I definitely thought they were teenagers. Turns out they are full-grown adults who are still embarrassed by their dad, but I love it.
Yeah, I have two sons. John, who's lives in Durham. He's married to a beautiful girl named Kira, who's and they're both they're going to be new. They're getting a new puppy soon. So
congratulations!
Everyone keeps asking about grandchildren. I said grandpuppy coming.
Yeah.
So they're doing well. I get to see them about as often as they can stand, I think. But huge. Always great. I've always been a fan of both children, watching as many sporting activities and other activities as I can. My younger is Colin. He plays football at Randolph-Macon, so that's my Saturday. Watching and wishing that the local news would pay more attention to all the Roanoke kids that are on Randolph-Macon's undefeated team.
What position does he play?
Offensive line.
Nice.
So I still call him my baby because he's, 6'4", 315 pounds. And so, but both my kids are great, very supportive. We've always been fairly close. My wife died 2 years ago. And that was, obviously a tough thing for everybody. But if you weren't cinched together, you are now. And I honestly felt like we were already so tightly cinched. I don't know that we could have been closer.
It sounds like you're very tight with all of your family as well,
Yeah.
too. So
Yep.
a wonderful support system in place.
Need it.
Yeah. And you had talked about storytelling. So when I asked you, what you love to do in the region, and you had specifically mentioned swapping stories and celebrating life as we do in Southwest Virginia. And then you mentioned your callback to Franklin County. And I feel like those things just go hand in hand. I mean, what do you do when you get together and storytell?
Well, most of this can't be repeated in the vernacular. But and this is a tribute to my brother as much as anything. He has a fantastic group of friends from Franklin County, as do I. But when the groups get together, often there's some other underlying pretense, like the opening day of dove season, or we're going to go watch, there's some athletic event, or somebody's going to build a fire in the middle of the field, and it's field party time. But several of the noteworthy Franklin County gentlemen bring stories. And my sister, the story writer, just reels and cackles while they tell these stories. And my brother is the best imitator of these stories that you could ever imagine. I've heard a couple of and no, I'm not going to tell you what they are because they're all off color. But and every once in a while, there's Franklin County Communion, which is offered at these storytelling events. But I think all that comes back to some of the rural heritage. My dad took up bluegrass out of the blue. He was a wonderful singer, but he took up bluegrass. He started going to hootenannies.
Oh, wow.
And I thought that sounded cool and sounded like fun, but in retrospect, I think it was fun, but I think there was Franklin County Communion, and there was great storytelling.
Yeah.
And my sister made the observation that when we were kids, my dad would have to go on a house call about the time dinner was over, when the kids would have to do homework, and four of us would be scrambling around raising too much cane. And he'd all of a sudden need to leave the house to go check on Ms. Brooks. He'd be back about 9 when it was Mom had gotten us all in bed. Yeah, so and so he would come back with great tales. And so it's just the enjoyment of humanity. It is. I'm the least gifted of the four of us at storytelling. I am not quiet, though. I'm somewhat loud. My department certainly would rank me in the top 2 or 3 for hecklers.
Well, all right. So final question. Where are you, and if your sons are in town, maybe, where are you guys going in the region? Where do you love to play or eat or do when you're not in the OR or, working hard?
So I would say my young son for sure is fishing. We have a little pond on a property adjacent to my parents' farm, and he and his friends started the storytelling and started the fishing and gathering in the around the pond, and it is great fun, and I enjoy seeing that. My older son is very gregarious, loves events, loves music, and so and loves to go out to unique places to eat. So the last time they were home, we went to Floyd, to visit Floyd and get some Red Rooster coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And then local events. This last week was ridiculous for music events that my older son wasn't here. My younger son did go. We had a couple great concerts. We've done kayaking. And of course, the older I get, the maybe the less adventurous I get. But I enjoy the people for sure.
Good. Well, good. Well, we're happy to have you here. We couldn't imagine you anywhere else, I don't think.
Well, thank you. One other little thing for the you mentioned ego. I tell one thing to remind young practitioners of any sort, but particularly physicians, would be to let them know it's okay to eat the humble pie that gets served every day, and eat it in public, eat it in front of your patient, because that's where trust comes from that humanity, and I think that I watch as we try not to be responsible for things that happen, because there's things that happen are multifactorial, but share with your patient your humanity, and that failure and disappointment are okay, and we all learn and we all move ahead.
I say the same thing about everybody in general in life, but that is a wonderful tip for aspiring physicians. So thank you for ending on such an eloquent note. I really appreciate that. It's hard to follow that. Thank you so much to our 2023 Top Docs cover star and award-winning surgeon, Dr. Al Hagy Jr., for being on From Print to Podcast today. Congratulations again on your Top Docs wins.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for being on our cover. We really appreciate it. I hope you get harassed in the store, heckled by plenty of people who have seen you on our cover.
I'll apologize. I suggested they pan out about another 100 feet.
Well, we got 2 years of this, so good luck. I wish you the best. As always, we at the Roanoke want to thank Dr. Hagy and every other doctor, nurse, and healthcare professional working so hard to keep our community healthy and safe. Be sure to learn more about Dr. Hagy and his life-saving work for Carilion Clinic, as well as our full list of Top Docs winners as voted by health professionals, plus so much more in our latest issue on newsstands now or at theroanoker.com.